friends. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. My name is David McLeod. I am your Life Mastery coach, and I'm the author of the book, A Life to Die For. Today, we are going to be doing episode number 175, and this one's called In Love with Yourself. Now, most people are okay with the general idea of self-love, but the moment they hear the phrase, in love with yourself, thoughts often turn to visions of egotism or narcissism. This is kind of unfortunate, I think, because if you think about it for a minute, there's really nothing wrong with being in love with yourself. It just means that you have come to a place where you recognize that you are a person who is worthy of love and that you are entitled to love yourself. But also, given that in the universal spiritual sense of oneness, you actually are love, then how can you be anything but in love with yourself? So today we're going to dive into this topic in a new way, I think, and we're going to use some pretty common life experiences and situations to help us all fall in love with ourselves over and over again. By doing so, we will be strengthening our ability to unconditionally love all aspects of ourselves, to honor and revere all of our gifts, and to forgive ourselves for our so-called weaknesses. So to help me with this episode, I've invited an energy clearing practitioner, certified coach, and intuitive guide devoted to making your life easier to navigate so you can be happy right now. She gives you a fresh start by releasing any stress that's making life harder than it needs to be, to make space for you to welcome more peace, joy, and confidence in your heart. So please join me in welcoming Caroline Perez to our show today.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey there, Caroline. That
Hi.
was really smooth. I like the way you brought that camera on. It was perfect. Thank you.
Orchestrated perfectly.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad that you were able to come and join me on this show today. Now, I know that you're very interested in this idea of energy clearing. You talk about, energy, self-clearing, and also environmental energy clearing. And I'm kind of curious. I imagine you have a personal story of some kind of challenge in your life that led you to begin doing this work. Are you willing to spend a little time and share with us a bit of that story and how you got where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And it's definitely been a journey. I come from more of a corporate background. I went to New York University, studied marketing finance, worked in a lot of corporate offices. And then I went into the interior design world. I worked at an architectural firm. And I've always been really successful when I was working in big organizations and corporate, but I always felt really burnt out. And if I tie it back to now, I'm realizing is because I am sensitive to energy, it just took a lot out of me to be around so many people, especially if you define yourself as a highly sensitive person, an empath, you could probably relate to this. Like some of us are not meant to thrive in these organizations where they have a ton of people. And I used to sit in some meetings, and I remember the client be sitting next to me, and I'd want to give them a hug or say something to them. And I'd literally sometimes bite my tongue not to speak because I really felt like there was something going on for them. So that's kind of the little hints going on in the background. And I've always been interested on the side in energy, and as a child, doing things like exploring witchcraft and things like that. So always interested in just energy and things like that. I would say pretty much when I decided, I ended up moving, and I think this is when I moved to Wichita, Kansas from Salem, Massachusetts. And there was a point in my life where you kind of are waiting for a moment when you arrive someplace where you have enough time, space, and money, right?
Right.
I had kind of all those things, and I was really content with our situation. And I had 2 kids, and I was kind of waiting for that moment. I'm like, okay, when am I supposed to be happy? I felt completely burnt out. And I remember distinctly a moment kind of being in the basement and just really upset and kind of just saying to myself, I just want to be happy now. This is not fair. I just feel like I'm following all the rules. I organized my life to death. So I think slowly, And I felt really broken. My husband's
Mm.
like kind of like a rock. He's like an engineer, and I kept trying to make myself like him, and I couldn't like get my emotions under control. I was just kind of always felt like I was broken and I needed fixing. So that's kind of like the low point. And I would say that's when I started my transformational kind of like life coaching journey. And through becoming um, kind of through serendipity, a program came to me, and I took the program, and through it, you're doing your own transformational work. And slowly, and through everything and big shifts too, I realized that we are not broken, that we are all unique beings. I began to really celebrate who I am and how my husband is one way, but I'm a different way, and we thrive differently, and there's nothing wrong with me. And you begin to learn how there's some cultural issues that are always moving forward, how success is defined, all these things. You realize that we're kind of programmed in as children. And the transformational work, that coaching I do, you learn about like the birthrights of when you're born and how these things need to be restored as we grow up, because we are born pure, and we're born knowing that we are these amazing, unique beings. But then slowly things happen where we feel like, we don't have the right to need, we don't have the right to love, we don't have the right to be here, and all these rights that you have to slowly start to restore these. Remember that we are these pure beings when we first get here. So it's definitely been a journey, and I feel like I finally fell into the energy work because I really believe in the transformational coaching work, which is more if you're familiar with beliefs and limiting beliefs change and the neuroplasticity, we have that part. But I felt like there was a component missing to that needed a support. And the energy work is kind of bringing back into balance, clearing out anything that's kind of held on to all your life experiences and stuff that you might have picked up from your parents or inherited. So it's kind of like that extra piece that I feel like, along with the coaching and the everyday limiting beliefs that we are conscious and aware of, possibly, this really supports making that and the change of the invisible stuff that we might not realize. So that's why a lot of my talks are called "It's Not Your Fault," because people who are suffering, whether it's health issues, relationship issues, financially, and they've done everything, and it's like, I don't know why none of this is working. A lot of times it can be something that's stuck in your energy field or in the home that you live in, and it's just not allowing you to be in balance and flow. So I'm really want to bring this stuff to the mainstream. There's a lot of people who do their own energy clearing and their own kind of rituals and things to like keep themselves in balance, chakra balancing. But I'm really wanting to introduce this more to people that are not aware, and maybe they have insomnia and they have no idea it could be stress or energies in their space, and they're doing everything they can to try to get a good night's sleep. Or, they've done every program under the sun, but they don't realize that it's something that's inherited from their parents and they just can't shake this thing. So it's just a different alternative, and really focusing on when you do come back into balance, you will be flowing, kind of what I was talking about, navigate with ease. You'll be kind of surfing the waves of life. And it doesn't mean like bad stuff doesn't happen, or I would say more like challenges don't arise. Like a big wave is going to still come, but can you stay on the board and navigate it easily and shift and course correct easily? That's the key. When you have a lot of this stressed stuff in your system, it's like surfing with luggage with you, that's really hard to stay on the board when you're like, all this stuff is throwing you off, right?
Yeah. Wow, that's a lot of stuff there, and quite a journey as well. Well, the first thing I noticed that you were talking about, being in the corporate world and not being comfortable with all those people around. I think there's a lot of closet introverts out there, people who don't realize how introverted they are, that they maybe charge up their energy by being alone. And I'm one of those. I surprised myself by discovering that fact, because I love being out, like in the limelight, on stage, speaking in public. But I also find that if I'm in crowds, I just get, I feel like my energy is just getting sucked out of me. So I need to have my space. And So I can really resonate with what you're saying.
You brought that up, because the first layer I clear when I do personal clearance for people is the energy of the people and places around them. That's usually what's throwing them. And that could be something recent or could be something really old. So it could be like what you're talking about. Somebody, you know, if you walk into a mall during holiday season, you might be there 10 minutes and then you come home and you're exhausted. That's not because
it's too long for me.
It's because your system's having to cope with all the stress of the people around you. And I like to talk about bringing this mainstream. I tell people we are electromagnetic beings. This is not spiritual. This is not religious. This is just, we are energy. And, you know, you don't have to believe in anything. There's no belief you have to believe in. There's no bells and whistles. This is really just about clearing out anything that isn't yours. And like, you could be picking up something recent, or it could be something from when you were a child. And you don't realize that this thing is stuck in your system. And when you're out of balance, it's just really hard to just stay centered and in line with who you are. And really love yourself, what we're talking about. And loving yourself is loving all parts of yourself. And other part of the energy work I do is looking at the energetic design of people, meaning just who you are, who were born here to be, your life purpose. And a lot of us don't embrace that we're all different. Sometimes on Facebook, I go in and I see people post asking for help. One person was saying how, you know, her Facebook ads weren't working and all this stuff. And she was like stressing out. And I was like, do you mind just, and I'll do this once in a while, like just message me like your birthday and then you just read your energy. See, are you supposed to be doing ads? I mean, not everyone's supposed to be doing Facebook ads. And she really wasn't supposed to be. And the way she was even writing her ad wasn't in alignment, because she can get results. And that's what the energy she puts out there. And she should be out there being that expert of getting results, but she doesn't need to explain the how. Like that was not important for her, but all her copy was based on the how, because for her, it was important to explain every little step. But that really wasn't her life purpose. Her life purpose is to be the expert and just to attract people, feel like they're safe and supported and that she's going to take care of them. And it was a huge shift for her. And then a situation was like, someone was posting, they were really hard on themselves because they wanted to stay up all night. And I'm like, well, maybe you're supposed to stay up all night. Some people thrive staying up all night. So I'm all about, when doing this energy work and healing, is let's figure out how you thrive and don't feel judged if you do see things in a certain way. I feel like a lot of people have programs and things out there that are not empowering. It's not like, let's celebrate you and do it in your own way, and teaching them to trust their intuition and their wisdom and knowledge and tap into that. So anything that I feel like is disempowering, I never like to take on, or any like modality, something like that. I feel like we should all feel that we are in control of our destiny and being able to co-create, you know, our lives.
That's a pretty tall order unto itself, and we can get into that in a moment. But another thing that you mentioned, which I think is relevant here, is that you said that you had this belief, this idea, this judgment that you were broken. And this is a common thing among people. As you know, in our world, we're told that we're supposed to show up a certain way. We have to check all the boxes, and we have to meet all these standards and slip through all these gates and everything else. And if we don't do it, then we start to believe that there's something wrong with us. We start to believe that, hey, that's just not part of my makeup. I must be broken. And so we end up with this collective idea that we're all broken, you know? And so I think it's really important that you brought that up. And so, you know, I know my work is probably very similar to yours in that I like to remind people, no, you're not broken. You're doing life your way, and you're doing life in a way that no one else can do it. You know, you have your own unique presence and your own unique gift and your own way of sharing that gift. Someone else might have the same gift, but they may share it in a completely different way. So it's really important, as you say, for us to own the truth of who we are and to understand that, because then we can start to bring in this notion of self-love.
Yeah, and I feel like I try to introduce an element of curiosity and not judgment. Like, I feel like, you know, I think you've done some shadow work. I think I've mentioned, I've heard you say that before, but like this idea of like, there are no, I tell people, no bad choices. There's just different paths. And, you know, if you go down and make that choice and something doesn't work out, just course correct. It's all about the journey, you know. And in Chinese medicine, which is the energy clearing work I do is based on 5,000-year-old Chinese medicine. Health is defined as adaptability. The more easily you can change, the more easily you'll stay in balance and not be stressed. There is no end point. There's no point where you're going to get and everything's going to be perfect and nothing.
Exactly. It's the journey, it's not the destination.
The goal is to be able to take whatever comes your way with curiosity and not judgment, and just allow. But also not to sit on the sidelines either. Sometimes you can get in a rut where you're an endless rabbit hole, knowledge-seeking journey, where you just keep trying to find the answer. That's not the answer either. You have to take some kind of action. And if you've ever familiar with Mike Dooley and playing the Matrix about how you leverage the universe to help you out in that, I'm a big proponent in that. You don't have to like make things happen where you have to move the boulder up the mountain kind of thing. You just got to like take one step and have positive intentions of what you want to be experiencing, and the universe will have your back. And I tell people to play around with this. It's like, if you don't believe it, build your trust muscle, because really it doesn't need to be this hard. But there's so much judgment, and I think people are just really hard on themselves. And I'm always just like, you know what? We're all going on a different journey. And it's, you know, if you read Power of Now, similar, where it's just being present and really loving yourself in every moment, even during the moments that you feel like you're not feeling like 100%. It's just different experiences, and everything passes, everything. I teach people how to feel feelings. I think in them as balloons. So like, if a feeling is a balloon, you just want it whenever you feel it coming up, you want to acknowledge it and see it and say, yeah, I'm feeling this way. But you don't want to grab on the string and get swept away by it and just go through this rabbit hole. But you also don't want to suppress it and hold all these balloons down. That's exhausting. You really just want to acknowledge, hey, anger's coming up for me. You know, yeah, it's gonna pass. You're not gonna be angry for like a week straight. So I feel like sometimes we're scared to feel feelings. And
right. I agree. Yeah.
Scared that it's going to snowball and we won't be able to control ourselves. But a lot of times just allowing the feeling without judgment and just curiosity and knowing it's just information, it's just feeling coming in, and just not perpetuating
energy. I wanted to just acknowledge we've got a few folks here on the live show. Thank you, people, for showing up. I appreciate it. And I want to welcome you here. Also, I'm sure you've noticed what we're talking about. One question I'd like to put to our listeners is, in what way have you ever had the experience of judging yourself as broken or not fitting in or something like that? And have you found yourself challenged to love yourself in those moments? Maybe you can relate to what we're talking about. I'd love to have you put your answers in the chat if you don't mind. I know it's going to take a minute to type that up, but anyway, I'll wait for that and we will continue the conversation. So, Caroline, I wanted to ask you a little bit about this idea of the notion of healthy self-love versus unhealthy self-love. I think those are things that, you know, we need to clarify so that we can continue the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I define self-love is really appreciating where you are, appreciating the present, appreciating your uniqueness. It's really about accepting we all have a different journey, accepting our differences. It's really about nurturing self-care, similar to you said, some people feel like, you know, maybe they're being selfish, things like that. No, like we are here to serve in a certain way. So we have to take care of ourselves. Right. I mean, unhealthy self-love, I would think more is when you do think, it's interesting we're talking about the brokenness, when you do think you're broken and you're thinking you have to kind of shower yourself with things and attentions and things that you need to fix of yourself to love yourself. Or I feel like sometimes people go down this rabbit hole of trying to find all these things that happened to them in the past or the shadow work, but almost going too deep where it's like, it's just you get completely lost and you're getting stuck in that brokenness. And you think you're trying to come to this place of balance, but you're really, really focused on all the things that are not in alignment. And that's not what we want to do. I mean, yeah, clear and bring things in alignment, but at the same time, where are we going? What is it when you're at your purest state? So to me, that's like true self-love is really being able to navigate your life with ease, like I sang. So it's really being able to welcome things into your life and not judge yourself and really revel in your uniqueness and really trusting the unknown, which I think is really challenging. I agree. I tell clients, part of you has to have faith and trust. And that's because one client asked me recently, how do I get in the flow? I'm like, you really need to trust, which is scary. I get it. It's easier to live in fear. And I said, there's no judgment there either. You want to live in fear and not do anything, you can do that too. There's no judgment there.
You should all, yeah, I think you're hitting on some really good points here. And part of the problem is we live in a whole world full of fear. So we're strongly encouraged to stay in that mind state anyway, which is not where I want to be. I'm pretty sure you don't want to be there either. And I'm sure that the people who watch this show and do this kind of work aren't interested in staying in fear. Nevertheless, sometimes fear can happen. Fear can just show up and we can get caught by it, like that balloon string that you were talking about. And so we need to do some work. We may need to do some introspection and take a look and say, okay, so how am I loving myself right now in this moment by allowing this fear to rule my life? It's a great question you can ask yourself. How is love serving me in this moment? How would love show up right now?
Yeah.
What would love do now? Those are great questions. And if you can keep those questions in your consciousness, then you can start to move yourself away from fear and start to moving towards what you're truly here to do.
Yeah, and understanding what fear is too is helpful. Like understanding it's just wanting you to keep safe. It's just wanting you to survive. And so not being hard on yourself when you're not taking action or feeling stuck and you're just wanting to wallow, that's okay. But I feel like it's just do it with some care and compassion for yourself. This beating up yourself in kind of the willpower way of living in our society, it's not the way to go because you're just beating up on yourself and just trying to force some change. Allowing, this is the word I used a lot, to try to bring that ease into things. If you have some fear, that's fine. Just allow, but also have faith. Do whatever you need to do, whether it's pray or connect to a higher source or whatever. Have some faith that things can shift and change, and there is possibility out there. At the same time, if you're really adamant, and this is a little bit the playing matrix by Dooley stuff, how things need to be in your life, it is going to be really hard to navigate your life with ease. There's got to be trust in how things need to unfold too. So, if you keep it more vague and broad, like I want to be happy, I want to be abundant, I want to feel vitality and health, that gives the universe a lot of options. But if you're like, I need to get this job and live here and have this house and have this much money, suddenly you're handcuffing the universe and you're putting a lot of restrictions. So I think that's another component of this, because the fear comes from a place of like, I'm not getting all these things that I think I want that will make me happy. You don't know that.
I think we've got a both and situation here. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting something specific in your life. But I think what you're talking about is you're so attached to that desire that you don't allow it simply to show up in your life. Yeah. You are chasing it. You're constantly chasing it. And it's the chasing energy that's going to keep pushing it away from you. When you simply declare the truth of who you are and what you want to attract into your life, just let the universe bring it to you. And that includes something like, I know that I need to have $100,000 in my life within the next 6 months or something. Okay, you've made the statement, you've given the universe notice, and now the universe has to do its work. But if you keep doing other things and just, stressing over it, then all you're doing is making life more miserable for yourself.
And you need to take action too. Like you can't just say things. You got to take some kind of action.
Right, exactly, yeah. Right. I just want to acknowledge Heather. She says, I definitely am very hard on myself with judgment and my never-ending self-talk. It is so easy to be caught in fear and looking outwards to other judgment and approval versus finding our inner peace and love. Absolutely, Heather. That's definitely something that I've personally struggled with. I'm sure that Caroline has as well. It's all part of the journey of life. And I think what we're talking about today is, finding that self-love and forgiving ourselves for being hard on ourselves. Forgiveness is a very, very powerful tool, and it can help us to move past where we are now, and then to become more embracing of the fact, okay, sometimes I have judgments.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. The health is about adaptability. And
exactly.
So this idea we get to this place of utopia where we're always loving ourselves and unicorns and rainbows, it's like unrealistic. It just doesn't happen. We are humans. We have human emotions. We are spiritual beings in the human bodies. We came here for experiences. We chose to come here to experience things, so experience them.
Exactly.
Judgment. And I get it. Like sometimes it doesn't feel good, but like the longer you kind of hold on to it, kind of like this, the longer you suppress or hold on, you'll be in that state more. But if you allow it, it kind of shifts. And I tell people,
that the technical term, the bleh.
Yeah, I know. But I feel like I used to be called like I was all over the place. I'm an emotional being. Like, growing up, it was like, calm down, be stable, don't feel, don't act, don't speak, I speak a lot. I'm very talkative. So like, imagine these are the messages I'm getting. That's so out of alignment of who I am. So imagine how long it takes us to come back to a place where, now I surround with people who love me for me. And I get it. I teach my girls this too. Not everybody's going to love you. Not everyone's going to like you. We clash with people. But that has no reflection of who you are and the amazing people that that you are, your unique gifts and your special talents. We just don't all kind of get along sometimes. Like certain people need quietness and they need more like introspective type people. Other people are more vibrant and fibry and they need like more socialization. Like we're all different. So I feel like we just really need to honor all parts of ourselves. I mean, with the energetic design work I do, it's helpful to know my daughter's energetic designs because one daughter is very, what I would call mentally, and she needs a lot of introspective time and needs space when things are going wrong. The other one is so much nurturing, but they're just completely different. There's nothing good or bad. It's just different. So I feel like in our society here, certain things are labeled good and bad. And it's really, the corporate world, it's really hard to be a woman, I think, sometimes. And sometimes, okay, so I know this is going into more of the feminine stuff, but we have cycles, we have different emotions that come up. And my husband always says, like, if I had to be you for a day, I don't know how I would do it. And sometimes we need to honor about ourselves. Sometimes we need rest more than, some other men might need rest at the moment. And I have to say, I'm really sad that I find that a lot of women in the corporate world tend to get breast cancer. And it doesn't surprise me because we need sometimes more rest or introspective time. And sometimes the schedule does not allow for that. And I think I was going through some of that too, through the corporate world, where some weeks it was really hard and some weeks I was thriving, but because we have to honor our different cycles and our energy. At the same time, we need to set energetic boundaries too in our lives. So, going back to the clearing work, I find it just really supportive for people where I can clear this energy outside to bring them back balance. This is why I talk about giving a fresh start, because this is a lot. And so like, where do we start? I mean, the first place to start is let's get rid of anything that's not yours and start, going and shedding any stress that you picked up from you maybe inherited or through your life, so we can bring you back in balance and then allow things to arise and kind of allow all those special talents and gifts to the surface, so you can really start to see and feel who your true self and what your true nature is. Because in the beginning, when I start doing clearing work for people, it can be so much stuff on the outer layer that it's like an onion, think about it, that we need to get rid of to get really to the core, to really allow things in your life and to really get into that flow.
Right, yeah. So there's this whole idea of flow. That's a whole different subject, really. And I define flow as presence in action, meaning that when I'm, no matter what I'm doing, I try to stay present to the here and now. I try to bring my attention to what's going on right here, right now. And that's how I see flow. You mentioned a moment ago about speaking with I believe it was in the context of talking to your daughters about, some people aren't going to love you or they aren't going to like you. And my question for people is, it's not so much whether people like me or not. The question is, am I able to love them regardless of how they show up? That's what matters to me.
For sure.
Because if I can set that example in my life, and I'm not telling you that I can, sometimes I don't do a very good job of it. But the truth is, that's my objective. That's one of my goals in life, is to always love people for who they are, whether I'm comfortable in their presence or not. That's I think an objective. So if I can do that, then other people can maybe some of that will brush off on them. And what I'm trying to do in my own way is just to raise the level of love on the whole planet. And I know that I can only do it, this tiny little amount right now, but that tiny little amount makes a difference.
It does. And it's honoring their journey. Like, I don't love this whole thing where some people are evolved and higher vibe and all this stuff. No. We are all here doing what we need to be doing. We all have our own purpose. And if you don't agree with that person's doing, like, that's fine. You're not doing it. So honor their journey, honor where they're at, honor what they need to go through and their challenges. And we're not here to like fix other people's problems. You know what I mean? Like, we are here as supports and guides. Sometimes some of us, that's our life purpose, but I'm not here to go around and being like, you're doing it wrong. No one's doing it wrong.
We have enough people telling us we're doing it wrong already. We don't need supposedly high vibe people doing it as well.
Yeah. So I think there is something to say, like, everyone honoring their journey and letting people, similar to having children, like allowing them to make mistakes, allowing them go through their challenges. And I know that can be hard sometimes, seeing people suffering and you really want to help. But we are all gifted in different ways. And sometimes what you think needs to be the solution to the problem, the hard thing is we are all wired differently. We have all different gifts. We all see things. We do have blinders. Not everybody sees things the same way. So really having compassion for that, to your point, coming to a place with a compassionate heart and just acknowledging that and not feeling that we need to solve every problem in the world. That can be something where I would say someone who has a lot of earth energy might feel that way, like the burden of having to take care of everybody and solve all the problems. That's a lot to take on for one person. So let's just come back to center and think about, what do you want to be experiencing? And let's start there. You were talking about the manifesting, wanting specific things. That's fine too, because it's more the energy of the vibe. Like, I want this house and things like that, but not handcuffing the universe, but also coming back to center and thinking about, what do I want to be experiencing? A good exercise to do is get a piece of paper and write down all the things you want. Like, I want a beach house and convertible, like all these things. Then look at the list, like all the words, and then think about, how would you feel if you had these things? Would you feel freedom? Would you feel confident? Would you feel relaxed? Like, what are the sensations and experiences you would have if you had all these things? Then write those down. And then circle kind of like the top few that you're like really want to be experiencing. Like, I want a lot more freedom and spaciousness or whatever it is. And focus on 2 or 3 things. And every day, wake up and say, I want to feel more confident and I want to welcome more spaciousness and freedom in my life. That's much easier to focus on and allow the universe to kind of support you with than saying, I want this car or I want this amount of money, and focusing on the tangible material thing. That's like an essence. That alone has an energy to it, and it'll start to attract these things. So think about, because you don't know if sometimes the concrete things you want will give you those experiences that you're really craving. Like, what do you really want? You can do another exercise where you ask yourself, what would this do for me if I had this thing? And then once you have that, what would that do for you? And kind of go down the rabbit hole of like, what is it that you truly crave and desire? And go there with that, we were talking about the selfish, with selfishness. Yeah, like, go there. We'll thrive when we are passionate and following our desires. Like, that's what fuels us. There's nothing wrong with wanting things and wanting to experience things. That's what we're here to do.
Right. Well, one thing that I have learned is I try not to use the word want, because when I say I want something, the universe is more than happy to create the experience of wanting. And when I say instead, I choose this for my life, or I accept something that is already here, now the universe has a different command to deal with. And part of the problem is we as a collective tend to use the word want an awful lot. And I try to avoid it personally. And when I hear my clients talking about that, and I said, so if you want something, then good, you want it. Yeah. You get to have the experience of wanting. Now, how do you choose it? That's the question I ask them. How do you choose it? How do you welcome it in? How do you bring it into your life? Stop wanting it and simply take what is already yours.
Yeah, I can see how you see here the word, the connotation. I've probably been doing this work for so long that I don't hear it in that way. But it's more tuning into the energy that you, for me, I sing the word want, but you desire to experience on a daily basis. Like, do you want to be experiencing stress and overwhelm, or do you want to experience? And I tell people that a lot of times things are going on in the background and you're not seeing maybe immediate results, but they're going on. And for you to similar to what you're saying, just focusing on the want, or like focusing like on what you don't have yet, that is not helping the process. Exactly. So having that faith and that trust that things are happening in the background and things can shift, but not being so attached to the outcome, which I feel like it's really hard to tell clients this, and I get it. Like, I experience it myself, so I have compassion, but I can tell you, the more I let go of outcomes, the more beautiful blessings come my way. And I can only say experiment, and just have faith and trust, and you will see that will start to happen.
Right. That's a beautiful point. When we release our attachment to the outcome, then we give ourselves permission to enjoy whatever outcome shows up, and it might even be better than what we were originally attached to. Better in the sense that it's much more enjoyable. It gives us a greater sense of fulfillment or something like that. That's another word I don't like to use, better and worse, because as you say, everything is just as it is, and words like better and good and bad and all that, those are
there's no bad choices. There's just paths. Right. And hard because there's such terminology out there, even success, that's like a dicey word, because what is success? I mean, people can equate it to money and like having stuff and things like that. Well, that doesn't have to be success. Success could be vitality and health, and could be something to anybody.
Right. A lot of these words that we use are not, they're not absolutes. That much is absolutely true. They're not absolutes in the sense that, okay, I could say that thing over there is good or bad. But really what I am saying is I either prefer this or I don't prefer it. I'm stating my own preference. You may have a completely different perspective. You may say, I love that thing. You don't like it? Okay, that's your business. But I love that thing, whatever it is.
And that's honoring people's journeys, honoring people's differences. And there's not this concrete black and white, exactly what you're saying. Right. I do want to touch on before, because I don't know what time we are at, but I do, because I want people to just be aware that, the energy clearing work that I do with space.
I was just about to go there. We're on the same wavelength.
I just want people to realize this, because if you're struggling in certain ways and you feel like you've done everything, it could be the environment, your home. And your home is supposed to be your sanctuary, a supportive place with supportive, nourishing flow. So if you're struggling financially, relationships, or just health issues, I clear 3 different types of stressed earth energies. Stressed energies, and one is earth energies. And people might not realize it. Like when we dig into the earth has meridians, as well as like the body does. So if there's construction, or like someone's removed a tree or utility work, they can possibly dig into a line, and that could create a band of stressed earth energy broadcasting through your neighborhood or even your home. And if you have one of these in your home, it can get really hard to, if it's in your office, to sit down and get focused and not get distracted, or to get a good night's sleep if it's running through your bed. So it can really be a game changer. And so I like to make sure people know about this, because I find that's really shifted people's lives. Being able to know that there's something that is invisible that they don't know, and they're struggling, and then it's like, oh, it's something like this. The other thing I clear is adverse effects of technology, which is some of us are more sensitive to it than other people. So it's not clearing like the actual technology, but just clearing any adverse effects. But the big one is emotional energies. So this is similar to what I clear like in personal clearing, when you're clearing some kind of stress energy in your field. But in your home, imagine if the person you bought your home from, let's say there was a couple that got divorced and they were fighting all the time. That energy stays in the home. We say they move out their physical baggage, but not their emotional baggage. So now you move in, and then suddenly you find you're having issues in your relationship. Or let's say the person beforehand who lived there had financial issues, and now you move in and you lose your job and all these things are going on. You're struggling with money, but you were fine beforehand. Those are kind of like a very telltale. There's something off maybe with the energy of the space. But I mean, I cleared homes that are like 1700 Scotland. So you can imagine how much buildup has been in there. And I always tell people, it's not the size of the space. This was a really small space, but it took me like 4 to 5 hours, because you can imagine the buildup. And then suddenly things start to flow in the home and you just feel more supportive. But different things can happen. It's like opportunities come your way, or even sometimes like repairs or things that need to be brought to light will appear. Like one client, I realized she did a whole overhaul of her home afterwards, but it was actually what was meant to be, because she found all these issues that would have like really caused problems in the long term. Another thing will start to happen is sometimes you start to clear clutter easily, because clutter loves stress. And I tell people, if you have one space in your house or like a desk or something that you feel like you're constantly clearing, but then it accumulates again, that's maybe some stressed energy there. And follow your cats, because your cats love that stressed energy. My cat loves to like sleep in the laundry bin, because our clothes tend to hold on to emotional energy. So you can follow your cats too. But just having an acknowledgement that our spaces can be out of balance as well as our own personal energy systems. And so just offering an alternative. So I usually tell people, when you're at a point where it's just like, I've tried everything, just be open to doing something like this to see it really will help bring you back in balance as well.
So first of all, I got to say what a lot of other people who are either watching live or maybe watching the recording are thinking. That is, this sounds very woo-woo.
Yeah.
All right. How do you actually clear energy, and how do I know that it's really happening?
Yeah. So
I think people want to know that.
No, definitely. And it's all about, again, it's not spiritual religious. It's all about entrainment. So, stress energy has like almost like a vibrations or like an essence, like you can kind of feel it. It's kind of like when you walk in a space and something feels off, right? You can feel that. So all we do to clear is entrain with that. So do you know, like, if you go to like a restaurant and they play music, we always chew to the same rhythm of the music. We all entrain with our environment. So what I'm doing is I'm going in and I am entraining with whatever vibration this is, and I'm actually shifting it. And so just by entraining it, using kind of like me being in balance and me just being in the sense of being, I can kind of entrain with that energy and just release it. So it's kind of, think of unkinking a garden hose. The energy is not being transformed or anything. You're just kind of unkinking all these kinks in the garden hose in order for the energy to flow smoothly. And when I do it, if people are with me, you can actually see, like, I have some tools to show you. I can show you if there's energy flowing into your home. I can show you spots where you can actually feel, and you could stand there, and if you actually focus, you probably could feel that there's something off here. And people can. Somebody told me there's one room that nobody wants to go into, like nobody likes to be in there. I mean, like, this is not woo-woo. Like there's people that there's homes they don't like. I was talking to one client, she's like, I never like to go to that person's home. Like there's something off there. Like I don't feel like I can relax. I never sleep well. And it's just, I never have a good experience. I end up fighting with my friend all the time. Well, I think it's not your friend, because when you go out to have lunch, you're getting along well. But suddenly when you're in her home, now you're fighting all the time. It's like,
So this energy clearing stuff that you do you have to be in the space physically to do it, or can you do this stuff remotely?
I can do remotely. If I have like a floor plan, just like a really rough draft floor plan, what I do is I can connect to the energy of the space, and then I can clear it from the floor plan. So yeah, I can do it remotely.
Yeah, so that sounds a lot like Reiki. I know that Sarah, who's on here today, she's a Reiki master. She does this kind of remote type work with people. Hers is more vocal oriented, but it's the idea, I think, is maybe not the same, but similar. You're manipulating energies in a certain way to to create balance and calmness and compassion and all those the kinds of energies that we all seek to find.
Yeah. And like Reiki, like there's different modalities of energy work, and Reiki is definitely one of them. And so there's just, there's like empowering energetics, and the one I do is based on the 5-element theory from Chinese medicine. So there's definitely, I'm all about empowering people. I tell people, if you already do something in your home that you feel like brings balance, continue doing it. That's it. I don't like people feeling like, oh, I have to go to her in order to feel better. I do not like that. Like, I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel like, be able to bring yourself into balance and teach you how to, like I said, navigate your life with more ease and be in more flow, but feel like you know what to do in order to come back to center.
Yeah, yeah, I think unfortunately there are a lot of people who say, "Oh, you need me? Great! It's only going to be an extra $150 or whatever," and they look at the opportunity of having you as a permanent client. They don't think of empowering you to do your own thing and to start, learning this process for yourself. So I really appreciate that you said that.
I think we're shifting from a time, I don't know if you feel this energetically, but like I feel there was a time when we had a lot of like idols or leaders or people we would look to, and they have to guide us. But I feel like we're entering this time where we are our own leaders. We are our own guides, and we're coming to a point where we're all wanting to empower ourselves and like really celebrate ourselves and honor the people around us. So I really want to be part of that journey, and I want people to feel like, I used to put out these cards, business cards out that said "Hope for the Hopeless," and just do a free session for anybody, because I'm sensitive to people who've had suicidal issues, suicidal thoughts and things like that. I feel like when I was in Wichita, Kansas, I struggled a lot with that depression, anxiety, when I felt was broken. I really did feel hopeless, and I don't want anybody to ever feel that way. So I'm always services, and I just feel like, there's always an answer. And I feel like everybody should feel like they can get the support they need and not be like, I don't have $10,000, so then I can't do this program. And not feel like, again, I'm getting a little bit soapboxy, but I don't like marketing that makes you feel like if you don't spend this $10,000, like you cannot change your life and you're going to fail. Like, that is not the message we should be putting out in the world.
Exactly. I agree with you. Yeah. So Sarah mentions sage, crystals, and sound energy. And she says there are a lot of different ways of clearing energies, and that's absolutely correct.
Well, go with what you resonate. I mean, there's so many ways. Like, I honor all different healers. I'm not saying my way is the only way either. So I always say, just go with what you resonate. Go with the person you resonate that makes you feel empowered and safe and supported.
Right. Well, Caroline did a remote home energy clearing, and it was amazing. Oh, beautiful. Nice to hear. So you got a little bit of a free testimonial here.
I know.
My home is a 3-family from 1908, and she knew so much about us currently and past inhabitants. It makes my purging easier and lighter. That's great.
I tell people, like, if you want to declutter, do the home clearing first, because it's so much easier, because the stuff will kind of want to get out of the home.
Right. Yeah. Well, and sure, decluttering is something that I think we all need to do. And decluttering doesn't have to be the physical either. How often do we have stuff up here that needs to be decluttered, Sure. Or down here in our heart, we get so caught up in our thinking and our ego minds and the way we believe that we crush our soul into this tiny little ball and make it really hard to bring forth our truth and who we really are. So decluttering is I love the term decluttering too.
And I like you mentioned the heart, because I feel a lot of time that we are in our minds, and the idea that our minds are in the driver's seat, and it's like sometimes we our souls, our heart needs to be in the driver's seat.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I need to be a passenger, including the fear and all those feelings. And I tell people, let them come along for the ride with curiosity.
Exactly.
Don't drive the car.
That's right. Yeah, it's like a friend of mine, he had a metaphor that I really liked, and he was talking about, your soul is really the captain of the ship. But for most of us, what happens is we have this ego mind that comes along and stirs up a mutiny amongst the crew and tosses the captain into the brig. And so then the ego mind and all these renegade crew members are steering the ship all over the place, and it turns into a pirate ship instead of, a ship for good.
Pirate ship.
Yeah, and so the idea is you've got to release.
Imagining all this room punch and all these people left and right, people jumping off the boat.
That's right. Yeah. So you got to release the captain from the brig and get your soul back in charge, because that's ultimately how you're going to have a fulfilling and love-filled life. Once you get to the truth of who you really are, then you understand that your ego is just a tool that helps you navigate this physical world. And it's not meant to be running the show.
Yeah. Beautifully said. I like that. I'm going to use that pirate ship.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about soul sensitivity. Now, I know that, I personally believe we all have sensitive souls. It's just whether or not our level of awareness, it really depends on where we are in that regard. So why don't you talk a little bit about that and how our sensitive souls can help us to become more aligned with the truth of who we are?
I mean, a lot of that is building our intuition, and some of us, like you're saying, like, are more sensitive than others. And, I always think of my husband, who's like an engineer, and, obviously he's very concrete and he just knows what he needs to do. And like, he's just able to put things into play. Some of us other people like are more empathic, and we're able to sense energy, and we actually make our decisions from a place of feeling things out and building our intuition. And we all do have intuition, but some of us are more sensitive. So I think it's honoring that sensitivity, and it is a gift too. And I feel like sometimes I feel frustrated when someone wants me to explain my choice or explain my decisions or what's your 5-year plan. It's like, if you're an empath or a sensitive soul, like, you cannot answer that question because you are.
Now I feel so relieved because I've never been able to answer that question.
Yeah, because you live your life in like tuning in and in response.
That's right.
To energy, in response to your intuition, things like that. And that is not really celebrated in this world, right? It's like, what is your 5-10-year plan? And I hated that question. I'm like, how am I supposed to know? But I know how I feel now, and I know what I want to experience now. So I think it's just honoring that some of us. So in Chinese medicine, sensitivity, you can think of it as having kind of an open heart. And so I tell people like that are empaths and stuff, you can think about, you want to maybe control, like set energetic boundaries, because you don't want to walk around life with this huge open heart. You can cause issues where you might have betrayals and rejections, and things like this can happen because you have such an open heart and you're allowing all this energy to come in. You kind of want to go out in the world with some energetic boundaries and just think about adjusting how open and close it is, and just don't open it up too quickly without kind of testing the waters. So I think being able to tell ourselves, yeah, I am highly sensitive, I am an empath, and embracing that. And if you need, also, I feel like we're not celebrated if you want to take a break. So my husband knows, after like a long journey, or if like I was just visiting my sister-in-law, I need like a whole day to myself, to what you were talking about earlier with the introvert. I'm actually an extrovert, but when I'm around a lot of people or traveling, I need a day to myself. And so some of us need our space, and we need to acknowledge that self-care, and that allows us to come back in alignment. And some of us need a bath. Some of us need to walk in nature, and really acknowledging that self-care, not like the spa or like going out drinking in restaurant. I mean, that's too, you can go celebrate, and escapism, it has its place in the world, but like there's something to be acknowledging our energy and making sure we give ourselves the space to come back in alignment, and telling people like, you know what, I just need, it has nothing to do with you, but I just need 4 hours of space to like just come to center.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, I think that we all would do ourselves a big favor by creating some of that time. Schedule a couple of hours every day, that just me time, to do nothing, to sit still, to go for a walk, to do something like that, that honors who you are. That's a real big piece of self-love.
Yeah, and it's funny about words. I don't use the word schedule too much because I get a little, because sometimes I feel like people say, do I have to do this every day, every morning, and will this keep me balanced? And sometimes I'm like, you know what? Sometimes I'm thriving. It's 2 weeks and I didn't need any space. Like I'm like, interacting with people. I'm just riding the wave. And then it's like, suddenly it's like, you know what? I need 3 days of like just coming back present. So
sure.
Really
what I'm getting at though is, as we've been saying, some people are very left brain.
Yeah.
You talked about your husband being very focused and an engineer type. For people like that, sometimes it's helpful for them to schedule the time.
Yeah.
If people like you and me, we don't have to worry about it. We make that time for ourselves anyway. Yeah. And so that's all I'm saying. There's
schedule the check-in. What I mean? Schedule the check-in every day. But whether it needs to be a walk or like give yourself options, because you just never, maybe that day you don't need to do anything. But it's just, I feel like the whole adaptability thing. I just feel like sometimes things are so regimented and we're taught to do things like you have to do the 6-week program or has to do it this way. And I just feel like there just needs to be a little bit more leeway in the way we approach our lives. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Wow. Do you know that we've been going for almost a solid hour here?
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to wrap this up here in a couple of minutes, but I want to give you a chance if you have any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share before we close it out.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like just go with what resonates for you. When it comes to healing and loving yourself and, coming back into balance, really just listen. You can put your hand in your heart and just listen to your soul, listen to your intuition, and you'll know when something feels good to you. Like, don't follow what you think you need to do in the shoulds. So I think it's just really important to honor your uniqueness, to revel in it, and to love yourself, faults and all, what you consider faults, which are not really faults. They're just different gifts that we have.
Beautiful.
So I feel like just take a deep breath. Whenever you feel out of balance, take a deep breath, put your hand on your heart and just say, I'm imperfectly imperfect.
Well, yeah. And I have a different perspective on that because I don't believe we're imperfect at all. I actually do believe we're.
I would say imperfect word as like more like the Western culture, like how
I know. Yeah, most people have a challenge with that phrase perfection, and that's because the ego mind has told us that nothing is perfect, no one is perfect, and that's the way we live. But the truth of the matter is, I believe we're all perfect, just as we are. And if we allowed ourselves to acknowledge that and to own that, maybe we'd find ourselves with a lot less trouble in loving ourselves.
Yes.
And since that's our objective here today, is to be in love with ourselves, we'll start by recognizing that you're perfect just as you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure now you have a free session available that people can sign up for. Is that right?
I have I'm inviting people, if they I'll put the link in here, that they can join the Magical Help Desk. It's just a free group I have, and I offer free general energy clearing for anybody who signs up. And I'm also offering a discount promo code for any of my services for 22% off.
Okay. And what I'll do is I'll make sure that link appears on the website once this recording is up.
I'll put it in the chat if I can. Sure.
That's a strange noise. What is that? Is that you typing?
I was just typing in the link.
I haven't heard Oh, and did it show up? I don't see it there. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
A line by Carolyn lifemasterytv.com/gift. Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Caroline. It's just been a pleasure. Had a great time talking with you, and I think we've covered some excellent ground today. So I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. And I want to say thank you to everybody who showed up today, and to those who are watching the recording. I want to remind everyone that you can watch the recording of this show and every other show on my website at lifemasterytv.com. That's life-mastery-tv.com. Also, I really hope you enjoyed this presentation as much as we enjoyed sharing with you. And in a few hours, you're going to receive an email from the Learn It Live platform people, and they're going to be asking you to do a review. My request is that you fill out a review for us because it helps us to spread the word. And if you can give us a 5-star review, that would be so awesome. But also, I want you to come from your heart, so whatever's true for you. And finally, I want to remind folks about my Life Mastery mantra, which I encourage you to say out loud at least once a day. And it goes like this: I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, I am David McLeod, your Life Mastery Coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. We'll see you next time on Life Mastery TV. Bye-bye.